You're listening to the internet. On today's Into Your Head number 719, non-profit vomitoriums, karate bullets, intrusive ventriloquism, teaching shoelace management, bookkeeping in space, and lots more. Upon a time there was a dog, or in French it's probably pronounced dog, but only when they're pronouncing in French accents the English word for dog. When they're saying it in French, they don't say dog, they say whatever the French for dog is. I think it's un chien or something like that. But no, if you're French and you're pronouncing the English word for dog, you say it's a dog. Probably is spelled D-O-G-U-E if you're going to spell it phonetically in French. But why would you spell an English word phonetically in French? And why would you say it in the French accent? You wouldn't. When we're learning French, we don't say it in an English accent. We go for a French accent. We say un chien est dans le bureau de tempère. And they'll say what are you talking about? And they'll say, oh, that's a very good Irish accent you're doing for a French fella. And they'll say, oh, I had a French fella living here once. Although now that I think about it, he wasn't French. He was either Belgian or Dutch. I think it was Belgian. One of those little countries beside France where they speak French. He lived here for a while. And he had a French sounding accent, but it was probably Belgian. I don't know the differences. Just as you don't know the little subtle differences between the accent that I have and the accent of the people 3 doors up would have, because they're in a slightly different part of the country, it being a very small country. It's the same with these French and Dutch people. I wouldn't know the little subtle differences between their pronunciations and their countries and their people type. But no, he was a decent gentleman, a polite young man. He came along and said, hello, can I live in your house for a while in return for a small fee? And I'll say, you'll pay the fee that's on the advertisement. And he said, fair enough, her words to that effect. And then he moved in, and then he moved out when his time was done here. He said, my time here is done, I'm off back to Dutchland, or no, it's not Dutchland, it's Holland. Strangely enough, the people of Holland are called Dutch, or is that, no, Danish, no, Dutch. The people of Holland are called Dutch, even though Dutchland is a completely different place. It's Deutschland, it's Germany is called Deutschland by over them. In Dutchland, meaning Holland, that's Holland is called Holland over there. They add an E on, they say it's not Holland, it's Holland. Although they'll probably also point out that the name of the country is the Netherlands, and the Holland is just a peninsula that's part of the Netherlands or something along those lines. It's one of those annoying things about these countries that whole people in other countries never get right. You probably have. If I went over to America, I'll say that fella's Canadian, that's pretty much part of America, and that'll annoy you Americans. Well, it's the same with the Dutch with their Netherlands versus Holland thing. People assume that the country is called Holland. It's not. It's called the Netherlands or Le Pays-Bas or something like that. And that's a little from what little amount I remember from learning French and from learning geography. I remember a bit about that. A little bit was drilled into me by my geography teacher. He said, get this into your head and be ready to regurgitate it should it come up into the exam at the end of your school life, so you can achieve a passing grade in this subject, which I did. I achieved a passing grade in that subject, just barely if I remember rightly. Geography isn't something I could care very much about. Geography doesn't matter anymore. We're all connected by wires. The geography of it doesn't matter unless you're installing the wires, and even that doesn't matter anymore because everything's wireless. You just put a satellite up in space and everyone just, no matter where you are on the globe, you just point at the satellite, say, look up there, there's a satellite, I hereby connect to you the satellite, and we're all connected through that. I don't know why we don't just use the moon, which is a natural satellite. I was always told in geography that the moon is a natural satellite of Earth, but no, they said we need satellites now, so we're going to make little shitty ones and launch them up into space instead of using the so-called natural one. I don't know. Well, I do. I clearly do know, because I just spent 4 minutes and 42 seconds talking about it, so I shouldn't put myself down. I do know. I know plenty about that topic, about whatever I've just been discussing. Natural satellites, and the Dutch versus the Netherlandese, and Canada versus America, and all the rest of it. Did you hear about that mayor in Toronto? You probably did, because I watched the Daily Show. There's a mayor in Toronto, and he's gone nuts, and he's going on about drugs and drink and crap, and he's saying we'll have an election next October, if we're still alive then, and then you can decide what you think of me. But until then, I need to get back to work for the people of my city. He's a great man, a great big man. He stands there and he says hello, and he has a stupid looking grin on his face, like a politician does. He says, I better put a grin on my face. Grin and bears, that's what they'll say. They have bears up in Canada, if I remember rightly. I've been to Canada twice, and I bought a bear on each occasion. In fact, I've got one in this room here. I've got some sort of pottery or wooden carved bear with a Canada t-shirt on it. I've also got a soft bear that came in a can that you open with a can opener, and it says, "Can bear beware." Then you take it out, and it's a cute cuddly little bear, but you can never put her back in, because once it's a proper traditional food can type thing. Once it's open, the beer is out of the bottle, so to speak, and you can put it back in, but unless you have I suppose you could probably get a can sealing machine, but you probably have to get a new lid, and I don't know how cans work. I've never worked in a can production factory, or a factory that packs things into cans. I've removed things from cans, all right. I suppose you can't be at every end of the production chain, although you can if you're one of those I believe it's called vertical companies, where they do business at every part of the production chain. They'll sell to customers, and they'll sell to wholesalers, and they are the wholesalers, and they're the producers and the inventors. They're a heavy end of the chain. But that's a bit first year commerce class, secondary schoolish for me. I don't need to be talking about that on an entertainment program. No. Anyway, we've a lot to get on with today. Items that need to be attended to, issues that need to be addressed, topics. We've got lots and lots of topics. We're positively booming to the seams with topics. We've got topics coming out of this brain that's being otherwise engaged lately, but it's back here now. It's back to re-engage with you, the audience. The audience ship. The audience ship. The ship of the. No, that's not right. Audiences are not delivered on show. Well, they are, I suppose, in a way. You could have if you're performing on a cruise line, or you have a very captive audience, that's only because they've nowhere else to go. You're the only show in town, and the town is just a cruise liner ship that they're stuck on for 3 weeks, and you're the only show on that night, and they come in and you say, hello, do you want some entertainment? And they say, Christ, yes please, we're stuck out on this boat in the middle of the sea. It's like the Titanic, except not as wet yet. Hopefully not going to get as wet as the Titanic, although I suppose if it's wet on the outside, that's fine, as long as the wetness stays on the outside of the ship, and preferably on the underside. Is it called the hull? I think it is. Not to be confused with Rod Hull, what's he, ventriloquist? I don't know. He was a puppeteer. I don't know if you consider him a ventriloquist on British kids television in the 70s and 80s. He had his hand up an emu. I believe his son has taken over now, and his son has the hand up the emu now as well. Well, not as well, just instead of his father, who's dead, he fell off a roof while adjusting his television aerial, tragically a number of years ago. I say a number of years ago, that's not very helpful. Every anything happened a number of years ago, unless it hasn't happened yet, in which case we wouldn't be referring to it in such a way. So to say that something happened a number of years ago is a cop-out. So I'll say it happened between 10 and 20 years ago, roughly, more or less, give or take a year. Do you want me to look up when Rod Hull died? Jesus Christ, I'm trying to get back into the swing of things here, and I have to do a search for when some English puppeteer died. Well, let's have a look now. Rod Hull emu death search. Let's have a look now. 1999, Rod Hull's death, quotation mark, accidental, close quotation mark. So it happened at the very latest on May 5th, 1999, because that's when this report is from, unless it's a prediction rather than a report. In which case, that would shed some doubt on the claim that the death was accidental, because how could you predict something like that? I suppose you could. You could say, that fella's not qualified to fix an aerial on a roof, and there's a 60% chance that he's going to fall off to his death tragically, so we're going to predict it here on this BBC News report. From the BBC Online Network in 1999. Oh, that's a very old-fashioned looking version of the BBC website. It's an archive page, and there's a picture of him pretending to be bitten by his own puppet, which is in fact his hand. It's only his hand. Don't be fooled, it's an illusion. Don't be fooled by these puppeteers. This is how, if you allow yourself to be fooled by puppeteers, this is how you end up with the likes of Hitler and Stalin and your man Jim Henson. Jim Henson, he was one of the worst of them. Well, he was quite good, I suppose, in a way. But they say that, you come on, they show you a big picture of all these Muppets, 200 Muppets together singing in a row in the opening sequence of the Muppet Show. And they'll say these were all a product of Jim Henson. Now, unless the man had 400 pairs of hands that he could operate all at the same time, very few of those puppets in that scene in the opening sequence were being operated by him at the time. So let's not give too much credit where credit is not due. Then you end up dead. Like Rod Hull. Rod Hull gave himself too much credit for his ability to safely climb up a roof and adjust his TV aerial, and look what happened to him. And then Jim Henson just got the flu or pneumonia or something and just died. He died, and not in a good way, I can tell you. Obviously in a bad way. You don't die in a good way. Well, maybe you do. If we all live in hope that we'll die in a good way, I suppose we can cling on to the hope that when our death comes, as is pretty much inevitable, it'll come in a good way rather than a bad way, or at least in a mediocre way. What you want is a mediocre death where nothing too exciting happens and it's ordinary. Or do you? Maybe you don't. I don't know. Speak for yourself. I can only speak for myself. I don't want a death at all. I don't want to be dead. I've got better things to do with my life than go around being dead all day. You achieve nothing, I can tell you, once you're dead. So I suppose you better get on with achieving it now. Use up all the petrol in your tank until you're dead, and make the best use of it possible, and try not to mix in diesel with it. I put diesel in a moped once and fucking destroyed it. It was a petroleum powered moped, accidentally put diesel in it, went a couple of miles, then I broke down, and the mechanic came out and said, "Christ, what did you do to this? Did you put diesel in it?" And I said, "How did you know that?" And he said, "Because you just said you put diesel in it." And I said, "I wish I hadn't told you that now, because you can just pretend to be an expert on it, and I have no way of testing it." It's like if you go to a psychic and tell them, what do you know about my dead grandmother who died in 1983 at the age of 87? And they'll say, "Oh, I see that she died in 1983 at the age of 87. And you'll say, "I could have told you that." And the psychic will say, "I happen to know you did tell me that. So there, I bet you didn't know that." And you'll say, "I did know that." And the psychic will say, "Well, it's hardly my fault that you knew it already. The fact that you knew it already doesn't make it any less psychic on my behalf for me to say it. It's not my fault that you know more than I was able to determine psychically. It doesn't put any less credibility on on what I do, which they have a point. There's nothing much you can do about that. Anyway, I know what you're thinking there. You're thinking, unexplained absence. That fella's come back with his podcast after an unexplained absence of 2 or 3 weeks, possibly. I don't know. I've lost count. Not that there's any counting involved. It's more of a checking of the release date of the previous episode, which I suppose I could check now quite easily. Although he could easily have changed the release date on the website by just adjusting the date of the post. Although would I know that as your standard average listener to Into Your Head? Possibly not. But I'm not your standard average listener to Into Your Head. I'm the creator of Into Your Head. Although I'm thinking, I'm trying to think the way you would think, which is quite harder to do than you might think. You've reached the nub of the issue there. I don't know how hard it is for you to think that. So how would I know? I suppose just by thinking with my brain. Except I need to think with your brain. I need to put myself in your shoes and then put your brain into your shoes and use your brain. Connect up your brain to your shoelaces. Now it's hard enough to get a young brain, like a 5 or 6 year old child, to master the art of tying shoelaces. So imagine if you had to tie your brain into those shoelaces as well, and put yourself, metaphorically, obviously, not in, you don't put in your real brain in there, but to put yourself in someone else's shoes. When it's hard enough tying your own. Have you ever tried to tie someone else's shoes? I couldn't do it. I've never been a parent. I believe parents do that. They tie their kids' shoes and then they teach them and they say, now do what I do, but just do a mirror image of it. And then you have to explain to the child about mirror images first. And that's, of course, to get the child to hold a mirror so the parent can watch himself tying the child's. Would that work? If the child holds if you tie your kid's shoes to demonstrate how to tie it, but you make them watch you in a mirror, would you need another mirror for them to look through the mirror and see the reflection? I can't get my head around that, which explains why I can't. I couldn't teach a child how to tie a shoe, but why would I want to? I can tie my own frigging shoes. That's why you frigging parents, you go pumping out these kids just so they'll learn how to tie their shoes for you, so you don't have to do it for them. It's to be the purpose, if you ask me. It's like coming up with a wind power generator that runs on petrol. Absolutely fucking ridiculous, but you still do it. Because it's human nature. I like that John Lennon. Well, I'm sure there's one John Lennon song or other that explains human nature. Can't think of any at the moment, but there must be lots of songs like that that sort of fella would do. Isn't there that one? Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. I'm going to probably have to do it just before I die. Unless I'm shot at a tragically young age without notice. He probably had a couple of seconds notice, did he? I don't know the exact circumstances of John Lennon's death. I know he got shot to death. Someone came along and put a bullet. Well, you didn't put a bullet in him. You put a bullet in a gun. You don't put a bullet into. If you just put a bullet into someone's head, that would do very little harm unless you had a very fast hand. You'd have to slam it into them at hundreds of miles per hour. Well, the average human can't do that. Oh no, that's why we need guns. People don't shoot bullets into people. You can't. If I came up to you with a bullet and just placed it up against your temple, even at the fastest I could possibly do it, maybe if I learned karate I could do it fast. I could do it like your man in the Kill Bill. The fella with the beard, the mentor in the Kill Bill movies. who teaches your one how to do the karate or whatever you call it. If it was like him, maybe you could slam a bullet into you. Well, why would you do that when you could get a gun? Although you probably can't. That's the issue. Not in this country anyway. You can't just go out and buy a gun, especially if the reason that you give is that you want to shoot someone in the head with it. I suppose you could go the dishonest route and say you want it for a more innocent purpose, but then you'd be lying, and they don't give guns to lawyers. At least I hope they don't anyway. If they've got a proper vetting process, they don't give out guns to dishonest people. Although is that set out in stone anywhere? It probably isn't. Do they have a rule saying now we're going to have a vetting process for guns in this country? You have a right to apply for a gun, but you have to go through an application process, and one of the basic rules is that you have to be honest. How would you vet that? I don't know, and that's why I'm not involved in the process of gun allocation. What makes me wonder who does the gun allocation, and how does probably half the people involved in gun allocations are dishonest, but that's illegal gun allocation. That's not part of the legitimate process. If I was going to go down to some government office and apply for a gun permit, you wouldn't have some illegal gun runner down there handing out the permits. No, at least I hope not, unless there's some corruption going on, in which case then I don't know how we're going to deal with that. It's not my job. It's the job of the police and the judiciary system to deal with that sort of stuff. You deal with your gun system, and I'll deal with making my podcast that's been off the air for some time. And let's divide up the tasks accordingly. Let's stick to what we're good at. Anyway, on with the show. Two puppeteers walk into a bar. One of the puppeteers goes straight up to the bar counter and says, "Hello, sir. What can I do for you today? Would you like a pint of my finest Guinness?" And the man behind the bar says, "Christ, who said that?" And then the man behind the bar appears to say, "Oh, it was me. I'm a ventriloquist. I'm ventriloquizing myself through you." And the barman says, "That seems a bit intrusive. Christ, I should shout rape now, shouldn't I? I should shout rape and get the maximum possible drama out of this and make some occasion out of it, because we're all in the entertainment business here. This is a hostelry, a public hostelry bar. I'm here to entertain people. They're here to get some entertainment and a couple of hours out of their dreary day of a Friday evening. And if I can get put some drama into their evening by shouting, 'Rape, rape, this puppet here is raping me,' although not literally, not sexually anyway, but in another way. I suppose that you could be literally raping you in terms of using you as a puppeteer without your consent, using you as a puppet without your consent. But I suppose that's stretching the definition. That's insulting to people who are victims of that crime in the traditional sense of its definition. So I suppose in a way, but in another way, no. Anyway, would you like a pint of Guinness, sir? And the puppeteer says, "Yes, please." And the barman says, "Oh, you're talking of your own accord now. You've decided to use your own body to put your voice through instead of floating it through mine, have you? Isn't that great? You finally found your own voice." And the ventriloquist says, "Are you one of these people who thinks ventriloquists are a bit weird?" And the puppeteer says, not the puppeteer, the barman says, "Maybe I am, and maybe I'm not. Who's to say?" And the puppeteer says, "You're to say." And the barman says, "Well, you're a puppeteer or a ventriloquist. You keep changing it." And the puppeteer says, "No, that's the narrator keeps doing that. I think he's a bit confused about the differences between, or the fine line or lack thereof, an unclear line between puppeteery and ventriloquism. Which is which and which is not." And the barman says, "Oh, I see his point there." And the barman says, "Oh, you see his point, do you? So in other words, he's making his point through me. In other words, he's using me as a like a ventriloquist would." And the barman says, "Oh, that's very clever. That's very clever. Where are we going with this?" And the ventriloquist says, "I'm not sure. I'm out of practice here. It's been a couple of weeks." And the barman says, "Well, you have a think there now, and I'll go and serve someone else, and I'll come back to you when you have something worth saying. And the ventriloquist says, fair enough, fair enough. Wait a minute, did you say that or did I? And the barman says, fuck off. And the great night is had by all.
Matchstick cats. Matchstick cats. Matchstick cats. Matchstick cats and stuff.
Are you a cat? Or do you know somebody who might be? Then tell yourself about Matchstick Cats, Neal's webcomic. Brand new episodes at intoyourhead.com.
intoyourhead.com.
If you would like to comment on any of the issues raised in this program, email studio@intoyourhead.com. Remember, we value the opinions of you, the humble and ignorant listener.
Monkey nuts, that's what they call them. They call them big steaming, shit-eating, piss-piling, monkey-wrenching, turnip-tossing, pavement-piling, pig-pestering, vomitorium something-ing. I was trying to be too clever for my boots there. I was trying to alliterate using V's, and I couldn't think of anything. I thought vomitorium something, very vomitorium venturing into the business of vomit. Although it's not much of a venture, it's nothing new. The Romans were doing it thousands of years ago. The Romans had although were they businesses or were they just like social clubs, not for non-profit? I don't know. There's a big difference between a business and a social club. The accounts are done very much differently. They're not run as business, they're not run for profit, although they still have to do accounts. If you've got a club, you still have to do proper accounts. There's rules and regulations and accounting standards for that. I don't know what they are because I dropped out of accountancy college after about 5 years. I never really learned. Well, I did learn that stuff. I just didn't retain it. I wasn't on a retainer. Oh, there's a little pun for you there. I wasn't on a retainer because I didn't qualify as an accountant. You don't give you retainers for just learning stuff. So there's no point in retaining stuff. The whole point of going to college for years and learning stuff and retaining it is that on the basis that on future earnings that will make it worthwhile for you. And if you're not going to do it, then there's no point in retaining the stuff. Although maybe some would say you do it for the sheer joy of it, the sheer joy of accountancy, the sheer joy of double entry bookmanship. Maybe there is some joy to be. Maybe I've been looking at this wrong for my entire adult life. Maybe there's some joy to be had from the beauty of double entry bookkeeping. You put a debit in there and you know that somewhere in the world there's a corresponding credit of the same amount. You're just not sure where because it's such a fucking ridiculous system. Well, it's there somewhere. It's like some sort of binary system, like those planets they've been discovering around suns that have they've got solar systems now that have 2 suns in them, and it's called the binary system. And there's some sort of weird figure of 8 orbit or something. I'm not sure how it works, but there's planets that go around 2 suns. Isn't it absolutely fantastic? 2 suns, twin suns, or no, maybe not necessarily twins. Maybe one's bigger than the other and was born at a different time. Don't know the exact details, but it's there to be studied if you're interested. It's just like accountancy. If you're interested in looking into further the double entry bookkeeping system, then it's there to be studied. Go and sign up for one of the courses. There's plenty of them. You can sign up to study certified. The Association of Certified Chartered Accountants, except they're saying French, so it's Association de Chartered Certified something, and the certified and the chartered words are interchangeable. It's ACCA in French, but it's also ACCA in English, but the C's are interchanged. They're in different order, if you get my drift. I don't know if you do. And then there's management accountancy, which is, although I think they've changed it now since my day. It's not my day anymore, not as regards to accountancy. It's my day for everything else, but it's not my day for that stuff. My day for that stuff was in the mid to late 90s when I knew all the organisations. You had the ACCA, You had the CIAMA or something. You had the Association. I think they all half of them merged with each other. And then you had certified public accountants. And then you probably had certified private accountants as well. But you didn't know about them because they were private. It was all kept underground and private. It said, this stuff's private. This is a private company. It's none of your business. Keep your nose out of this unless you're the tax man. In which case you probably have a legal right to see this. In which case I'll file the proper accounts in the proper way, but I'm not going to put them in the newspaper for the whole country to see. Although, if you know what you're doing, you can just go into the company's registration office up in Dublin and you go in and say, I want to do a search for this country and see what's on file for us, this company rather. And they'll say, certainly, sir, give me a fee, please. And you'll say, here's your fee. And they'll say, I haven't told you how much it is yet. And you'll say, I know, but I do this all the time. I'm familiar with the fees, unless they've gone up since the budget. Maybe they have. And they'll say, well, they did announce an increase in our fees in the budget, but they don't come in until January. So, well played, sir. And you'll say, I'm not a sir, I'm a madam. And they'll say, that's none of my business. I'm a civil servant. I treat you the same whether you're male or female, black or white, purple or yellow, animal, vegetable, mineral. I couldn't care less if you're a sir or a madam or a bit of both or a bit of neither. And you'll say, that's fine, but please call me madam. And they'll say, certainly, sir. And you'll say, no, certainly, madam. And they'll say, I'm not a madam, sir. That's next door in the other place, that place that only opens at night. That's where you get the madams. You'll say, I think we've got lost somewhere here. And they'll say, well, it's a small place. It's a small world. It's a small country, 3 million people. How lost can you get, for Christ's sake? You're a professional person. And you'll say, nobody's a professional person. Just because you're a person, that doesn't make you an expert or a professional. We're all people. We're all persons. If I have a cat, we're getting a new cat tomorrow. The cat didn't automatically become a professional certified cat the minute it was born. No, I had to learn its bit. Being sitting there in someone's house, learning how to use litter trays for the last few weeks. When do you decide when it's a professional cat? I would maintain that around 2 years of age it becomes a professional cat. But there's no strict number of days that it takes or anything. No. So maybe, I don't know, maybe I've lost the run of myself here, or maybe I haven't. And the woman behind the counter says, indeed sir, I think you wanted the Department of Agriculture Animal Health section, not the company's registration office. And you'll say, I'll tell you what I want, or I'll tell myself what I want and not choose to share that information with you. And they'll say, certainly, madam. You'll say, thank you, sir. And then you get on with the show. Absolutely fucking fantastic. Hello, it's me again. Same me. A new day. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's 9 hours into the day now, if we're honest. If I'm honest, we're 9 hours into the day. If you're honest or dishonest doesn't really affect it. In fact, if I'm dishonest, it's still 9 hours into the day. I just won't be telling you. I could say, in fact, if I say it's a new dawn, I am lying, because it's not new dawn at all. It's nearly, it's 9:29 and a half, 24ths of the day are already gone. At least if you count from midnight, which I don't. The day starts, as far as I'm concerned, when I wake up, unless I wake up too early, in which case it's still last night. If I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, as far as I'm concerned, it's still last night, although there is a sense of urgency then in terms of getting back to sleep if I wanted to remain last night for another further amount of time. It's all a mental thing. It's all about the brain and the mind. There's not really anything real about it. There's nothing calendrical about the day ending at 3 or 4 in the morning. No, it's all in the mind. Just the mind. Just the thing that keeps me going. The me. My mind is me. So don't be may to you just be an empty an empty space with ones and zeros floating. Is there ones and zeros in the brain? I don't know. There probably is. There are cells and there's blood things going around and there's electrons. Oh, electrics. There's electrical impulses going around the brain. But are they in binary code or are they in waves or are they? I wonder. I don't know. I don't understand much about technology. That sort of intricate technology. I know how to use it all right. I know how to use my brain and I know how to use an iTelephone and I know how to use this computer, this personal computer of mine. Personal. Oh, it's personal. I say it's personal, but the whole house can access this if they want to. It's stuck out in it's a box stuck out in the cupboard in the upstairs hall. There's a computer console in here. It's basically a screen and a keyboard and a mouse and it's plugged in here and the computer's out there. Anyone can come into this room at any time. Well, anyone who has access to the house, which would be someone who's already in the house, in which case they wouldn't need access to the house because they're already in it. You don't need to access something that you're already in. Although, unless you want to access it further in, I can access my conscious mind, but if I want to access my subconscious mind, that's like going further in. It's like going into a panic room that's in the centre of the house, which now that I think about it, the little cupboard in the upstairs hall where my computer tower is very much like a panic room. It's got no windows. It's got a door. I recently put the door back on, although it's missing a hinge. I took off the door for a while because for a while it was a cat bedroom, but then I put the door back on. I'm missing a hinge and a couple of screws. Don't worry, you can probably replace them. I'm pretty sure you can buy standard door hinges and screws in door hinge shops. There's probably one down the town, but I'll wait till I'm in another town where they're cheaper. Go somewhere cheaper. I don't want to give my business to some local hardware shop that's charging a small fortune for a couple of screws and a door handle. No. Now, you're probably wondering why I bring this up. Well, wonder away. Nothing wrong with having a bit of curiosity about the world. If you lose your curiosity and wonderment about things like this, you might as well be dead. You might as well be lying there dead in a pool of blood. Someone else's blood, preferably. You don't want to be lying in your own blood because that would imply that you suffered an unpleasant death. Although if you're lying dead in someone else's blood, you may well have had an unpleasant experience of death as well. But at least you got a couple of stabs into the other person before you went, presumably, unless it's some animal who attacked you or something. I don't know. A rabid dog, and that's why you don't want the dog. You particularly don't want a rabid one, but you don't want the dog at all because of the possibility that it might be rabid. If you're getting a dog, it's no point saying I'm just going to get a dog that doesn't have rabies. It's not that easy. You can't go into the cat dog kennels and says, give me a dog, but give me one that doesn't have rabies. They'll say, we can never be sure of that, sir. If we had one that we suspected of having rabies, we would look into it further. But I can honestly say that none of the dogs here are suspected of having rabies, but I haven't. Can't be sure. Can't be sure at all. Admittedly, we do test them. I'm not a scientist. I haven't looked into the peer reviews of the testing system that's used. So maybe that's a bit OCD of me to worry about that. But worry about it, I do. That's what they'll say when you go to get a dog. We're getting a couple of kittens this weekend. Did I mention that? I probably did. I probably said we're getting a cat. I didn't want to say we're getting a couple of kittens because I didn't elaborate. I was probably missing out detail there. It's two sibling kittens from the same batch. You make cats come in batches. It's just like with baking. They say, we'll make a baker's dozen of these, which is 13, and then we'll have one of them will end up probably being crap. So we'll have at least 12 kittens then. Now, they don't usually have 12 kittens in a batch of kittens because it's not the same as baking. You don't bake a kitten for one thing. If you did, you wouldn't be able to do it inside the cat's mother. You'd have to have some sort of artificial womb, machine, an oven or something to make the kittens in, and that wouldn't work because we were. Anyway, suffice to say, getting a couple of kittens this weekend, probably. I say probably, as to be accurate, because who am I to say what will and won't happen when we go to get them? They might decide, oh, I don't like the look of you, and we'll say, we don't like the look of you either, and they'll say, well, I'm glad we're agreed on that, the feeling's mutual, and I'll say, well, no, the feeling's not mutual, because I'm not glad that we agree on that. I'm unhappy about the fact that we agree on that, so that feeling isn't mutual. And they'll say, oh, I understand, I sympathise with your point of view, but the fact remains we have a cat here who's had kittens, and you're applying to take a couple of them, and we're making a conscious decision to decline them, even though we invited you to take them in the first place. We made the first move because we heard you're cat people, and we have cats that we want to rid ourselves of. And you say, well then, you probably heard we're cat people. We have a reputation of being one of the finest cat adopters in the town. And they'll say, I suppose that's true now. I don't know why I was having doubts about this. Here you go, here's your kittens. And you say, they're not my kittens. I don't have any kittens, that's why I'm here. And they'll say, no, I mean, here's the kittens that are now going to be yours. And we'll say, but we're not cats. How can we have kittens? People can't have kittens. Only cats can have kittens. Or I suppose a dog who's mated with a cat somehow, or some other creature. Whatever creature is reproductively compatible with a cat. Probably not a dog. Can a dog and a cat reproduce? I don't know. Probably not. And if they didn't, they wouldn't reproduce themselves. They'd produce something slightly different from them. It would be either a mixture of a cat. Definitely wouldn't be one cat and one dog in the litter. Or maybe, I don't know. I'm postulating here. What the freaking hell do I know about cat reproduction? Quite a lot as it happens. I just don't know much about dogs mating with cats, which you should be glad of. You don't want someone who knows about dogs mating with cats if there won't be both in charge of kittens. Oh no, no. Well, maybe you do, but if you do, you're wrong to want that. You shouldn't want that. You should stop wanting that immediately if you've started, and if you're planning to start wanting one, you should rethink that before you start, before you set the cat amongst the pigeons, so to speak. Anyway, good morning.
You've been listening to Neal tell you stories. About cats, probably. Neal talks a lot about cats. Send your topic suggestions to studio@intoyourhead.com.
Into your